Okay, so I'll level with you here. I am absolutely shattered this week. I've had a hefty long days at work, and I'm knackered. Now I will confess that I did watch this program when it came out on Monday. However, because I'm in the UK, we get to watch it on Monday morning, and it's now Thursday, and I'm only doing this review now. So I have got notes from when I watched it on Monday. I'm going to try and get through it, but as I say, I'm very, very tired. So if I fall asleep halfway through this video, you end up watching like a 5 hour long video of me asleep. I'm very, very sorry. So let's get started. So, begin this episode. Obviously, you have the little what happened last week bit, and then we have the title sequence, and then we went straight to a quick image of Henry shooting himself, and then suddenly it was like 3 months later, and Ellie and Joel are holding up the the funniest couple I've seen in the film for quite honestly. So an older couple, they're in a little cabin in the woods, and Joel and Ellie are sort of holding them up to find out information, obviously, because they don't know anyone. And the way that this couple work off each other is brilliant. I mean, this guy, they're sort of like a Native American Indian couple, and I recognise that guy from just about every single Native American Indian film. He always plays an Indian in things like the older Chief Indian. I think he's been in the Twilight films and various other ones, but he seems to always be him. And he's got his wife, and the way they play off each other, I said, is phenomenal. And they're sort of like they've obviously been living together on their own for a very long time. So they've got a weird sort of like comedic sort of like love and hate sort of combination going on. So Joel's basically got a gun to this woman's head. The husband walks in, he's like, and Joel says to him, he points at the map, says to him, "Now your wife has told me where we are right now. But if you say something different, I'm going to shoot you." And the guy looks to his wife and he's like, "Did you tell him the truth?" And she's like, "Yes." And he goes, "Are you telling me the truth?" And she's just like, "Yes." And I thought that was hilarious. So anyway, basically what this scene is to me is that whenever you watch a horror film, when the group of teenagers pull up at the convenience store, they go in and the man says, "Oh, don't go down there. You never want to go down there." And they go anyway. This was very much that in this scene. So they basically Joel's saying, like, "I want to go down here. Is it possible to do it?" And he says to him, like, "No, people go down that way and they die. You go west, you die. There's a river. If you go past that river, you're going to die. Everyone dies when they go past the river." And with that, you can see Joel at that point drop. Now, he's always been quite positive about finding Tommy. He said in a previous episode, like, he's never going to give up. He's going to find him. But when this guy says, like, everyone that goes that way dies, he sort of drops a bit. And then he decides, like, they get all the information they need from this couple and they decide to go. And as Joel's walking out, he sort of has like a panic attack sort of thing. He sort of, you can see he's holding his chest. Now, I myself in the past had this. I had these like heart palpitations where your chest sort of pumps up really fast in your chest, and the heart sort of pumps really fast in your chest. It's sort of hard to catch your breath. I've had that, so I know what Joel's going through at that point. He's basically having like an anxiety attack. So he sort of has this, and Ellie's like worried about him. She's like, "You can't die, because if you die, I'm screwed," sort of thing. So they sort of go on their way. They're still going to head to the way they're going to head, even though they know the dangers that are coming. They're still going to go that way. Okay. So I've got my notes down here. I know it's not really professional, but you know. So we get a part where Ellie and Joel sit around a campfire and they have a little bonding sort of session, because they keep doing these nice little bits where Ellie and Joel will bond together, like have these nice little moments together. And it's the what will you do when there's a cure? Like, when my blood cures everyone, what are we going to do? And Joel says like he'd like to sort of have a little ranch and little farm. I can see that sort of Joel thing, like having a little ranch, all these sheep running around. Ellie's kind of like got this like fancy about going into space, but she kind of knows it's not going to happen. But that's kind of the thing she wants to do. She wants to go into space. She's looking up at the moon, and I think that's quite sweet. And we see her later on in the episode as well, looking up again. So this is the point where obviously then Ellie confesses to Joel that she tried to cure little Sam, Henry's brother, before he turned, by rubbing her blood on his, and it didn't work, and that kind of upset her. You can see Joel about really sort of like have a bit of a go at her, then realises how much pain it's causing, so he sort of calms down a bit. Then Joel's like, "Okay, right, we're going to get some sleep now. I'll stay up all night. You sort of go to sleep." But Joel falls asleep. He's supposed to be on watch, but he falls asleep. And as a person who's I'm now in my sort of 40s now, so I know that's like, I'll sit here watching a film and I'll just like, I'm gone. So I know what that's like. And no matter how much you're trying to stay awake for whatever reason, you can just go. But when he wakes up, Ellie's standing there with the rifle, sort of keeping watch, and he kind of starts to have a bit of a go, like, you should wake me up, you should do this. And she's like, yeah, but I've done what you've told me to do, and I'm doing it, and it's worked, and we're okay. So it's kind of that sort of like, and I've done it with my kids, where you kind of like, especially my eldest daughter's now 19, so there was a stage with her where she was like, I want to go to the shop by myself, and it's kind of like you kind of want to let them go, but you're kind of worried about them at the same time, so you kind of do that. Well, so I'll walk you halfway. You can go in, and I'll meet you halfway. It's that where you sort of do that thing where you're trying to, with your kids, you're trying to give them enough of their independence, but also like you're worried about what's going to happen while they're out there. So I kind of get Joel's thing with that, but it does work. Like Ellie does do the job. So now we're getting walking through the sort of woodland area, and they get to a river, and Ellie's like, I think this could be the River of Death, and Joel's looking at the map like, oh god. So they're walking along a bit more, and then suddenly these like riders appear from over like a hill. They sort of turn up from over the hill, and they surround them. And Joel's like, whoa, we're just passing through like that. And they've got a gun pointed at them and all. They've all got guns pointed at Joel and Ellie. And he brings out this guy, one of the lead sort of riders, brings out a dog, and he said, this dog will smell if you're infected. If you're infected, it'll rip you apart. So the dog goes up to Joel, starts sniffing at Joel, and then sort of, yeah, he's fine, and walks off towards Ellie. Now, obviously, this is a real tense moment, because we know that in the past, when Ellie's had a check done to be infected, or she's infected, it's come up that she is infected, even though we know that she's immune. Well, if this dog's just going to attack as soon as it sees someone infected, what they're going to do? And it's just like point where you can see Joel is now powerless. He's got all the guns pointed at him. He's standing there, he can't think of what to do, and he kind of freezes a little bit. And you can see him sort of almost wincing at like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Because you sort of get shots of the dog crouching down, sort of growling. Then you get shots back at Ellie, who's kind of sort of like apprehensive. And Joel's literally just like, oh my god. And you can see him sort of like, and then suddenly there's a relief when he hears Ellie playing with the dog, and I thought that's quite a sweet moment. She's actually playing with the dog, but obviously then Joel's just like, oh my god, because he didn't know what to do. He had no clue of what to do at this point, and that's horrible. To be that powerless is horrible. Then Joel says, "Look, I'm just looking for my brother. All I want to do is find my brother." To which this one woman says, "What's your name?" And he says, "Joel." And with that, she's like, "Come with me." So then they head back to this like community where they're kind of trying to live the way normal people live. It's kind of like, I know I keep comparing this to The Walking Dead because it is a very similar aspect of the show, but Alexandria is basically, from The Walking Dead, is this sort of community where they're kind of trying to go back to the way things were. So I'm having a cup of tea, I'm very thirsty. They're trying to go back to the way they were by having this little community where they share things, and at one point Joel was like, it's like being a communist. But anyway, so they go through this little community, go a little round, and suddenly Joel sees Tommy from across the street and just shouts Tommy. They turn around and they embrace, and you can see that these brothers, obviously they separated and been apart for quite a long time. But when they come back together, it's like instant, like they're holding each other tight. Joel more tightly than Tommy. Like Joel's like, I think he needed to see his brother at that point. He kind of given up a bit of hope on him. So, and then Joel has that line. He's like, "What are you doing?" And Tommy's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I've come to save you." And he's looking around like, "This is brilliant. Like, I don't need to save you." So it's kind of a funny moment. So this is the point where I've now seen this woman, who was the rider that sort of like asked Joel what his name was, and it's took me about 10 minutes because when I do this, when I see someone I recognise, I like to try and work out myself where I've seen them. And it took me about 10 minutes with this, watch this show, thinking, I know you, where do I know you from? And suddenly it clicked, she's in True Blood. She was Suki's friend in True Blood. And I haven't watched True Blood since it was on. I don't even know when it was years ago. And it's Suki's friend from True Blood, who used to work in the bar. And it just clicked, and I was like, oh my god, True Blood! But anyway, that's enough on True Blood. I haven't thought about True Blood for a long time. I actually have a bottle of True Blood, like a replica bottle of the actual True Blood drink. I might watch that show again. I haven't seen that in years. Quite a good show. Suck it. Anyway, where we at? Right, so they'll sit down, have a little like meal together, and Tommy says that this girl named Maria is family, because Joel's like, "Can we just talk family?" And he's like, "Well, she is family." And then Eddie's like, congrats, say congrats, Joel. Like, and Eddie does that little dig at him again, like, say congrats. So they say congrats. Then we work out it's Christmas time because you start seeing Christmas trees everywhere. I didn't expect to see that in this show, actually, Christmas. So this is where the part where they discuss that there's a council in this place that everyone kind of trades with each other. And then Tommy's like, it's kind of like, you. Then Joel's like, so you're communists? And Tommy's like, no, we're not communists. And then Maria goes, actually, yeah, we are. We're like, we're a column, we are communists, sort of thing. We live in a colony, so we're communists. And it was just so funny that Joel gives that look to Tommy like, I told you, like that. And Tommy just like, shit. And I like that. I did like that. So then Joel and Tommy have a little chat in the bar, and Joel straight up lies to Tommy about what's been going on. He says like he's taking the girl for like someone's Firefly's daughter or something. He's trying to take her to it, and he doesn't mention that Tessie's dead. He says Tessie's fine. And he basically wants to know how to get to the Fireflies. And Tommy says to him, well, the way you've got to go is quite rough and quite dangerous, so it's not good. And Joel kind of gets a bit hesitant and says to Tommy, well, can you come with us? Like, we want you to come. And he's like, I can't come. And when he finally reveals why, it's because Maria is pregnant, so Tommy's going to be a dad. Joel kind of gets a bit shitty with him. And to me, I don't know if it was a little bit of maybe jealousy or a little bit of like, well, I had a daughter and she's gone now and I know that feels and I don't want you to feel like that. Or if it was like, oh, you're having a kid now and that's not fair because I want my kid back, sort of thing. I don't know if there was a bit of that, but it was a very weird reaction Joel had. But also the fact that I think he knew that he basically, Joel wants Tommy to take Ellie to this place because Joel doesn't feel he's good enough. We find this all out later. Then when Joel leaves the bar after having a mini sort of argument with his brother, he has another one of these panic attacks. And as he's sort of coming out of it, he sees a girl with hair very similar to his daughter's, and that kind of triggers him thinking about stuff like that, about his daughter again and sort of like what happened. And he just looks, generally, this is the episode where Joel seems to be at his lowest. We've not seen, obviously, he's lost Tess, he's seen all his bad stuff and that, but this is the lowest we've seen Joel. This is like Joel suffering depression and maybe a little bit of, what they call it, survivor's guilt, maybe. He's definitely down in this episode. Joel's not, he's a very monotone guy, but you can see this guy's dropping. So then we get, Ellie goes to talk to Maria. And Maria's very anti-Joel because of the stories Tommy's told in the past about how they used to kill people and do nasty, dodgy things, obviously, to survive in the horrible world they were living in. And that Maria says that like Joel was like leading Tommy on to do that stuff. Like, but technically that was the stuff that kept Tommy alive. Tommy wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for Joel. But Maria's obviously, she used to be a lawyer, so she's very sort of into sort of like what Joel did was wrong and stuff. But no one knows what they're going to do in these situations. Where are we looking at now? Yes, then Ellie jumps on the defense of Joel and was like, yeah, well, Tommy did it too. And she proper fires back, like, he doesn't kill innocent people anymore. Like, he has killed people, but he's not killed anyone innocent anymore. And he's not that type of person anymore, that he's changed and that. So there's a real defensive coming from Ellie there. And it's obviously that relationship they've built where she's not going to have anyone talk shit about Joel, so she's going to fire back. And I like that. It's that how these two are getting so close that it's like an unbreakable bond sort of thing now. And now Ellie idolizes Joel to the point where she won't let anyone say anything bad about him. And this is when the bombshell drops on Ellie that Joel had a daughter because she didn't know, and she says that explains a lot. That's why he's like the way he is, like that he lost his daughter, and she knows what it's like to lose people because we've sort of heard bits of this already, that she's lost people in the past, and everyone that she's ever had a close bond with has either dumped her or died. So you can understand like her understanding Joel's loss. So then they go to the movies, and the thing is, like, I'm a big movie fan. I'm a big pop culture fan in general, but I'm a massive movie person. The film they're watching, I've never seen. I don't know what it is, and I might look it up to find out what it is. But I know it's got Richard Dreyfuss in it, and it's not long after. It's around the Jaws time. He looks that sort of similar age that he was in Jaws, but I've never seen that movie. I have no idea what they're watching. If you do know what they're watching, you want to put in the comments, please ease my burden. But I might try and Google it at some point later. So watching this film, and then during the film we sort of see a look between Maria and Tommy goes off to find Joel, who's trying to fix his boots at the time, and Tommy just brings some new ones, says like, and sort of goes to start a conversation, and then Joel just blurts it out, she's immune. And then he tells Tommy what's been going on. So you see, when he first says like she's been bit, you can see Tommy's like, really old shit, like what I've got to get to people. Then he says, no, you don't say. I've seen it myself, and he trusts his brother. He knows Joel's not gonna, he did lie to him, but he knows that this is his brother telling the truth right now. He knows he's gonna trust him, and Tommy just sits there and goes, start from the beginning. And then Joel goes for everything. He says about like Tess getting killed, and a dying wish was that Ellie would get to the place. How the Fireflies were like trying to get Ellie somewhere to sort of make this cure from her. And then Tommy's like, all right. And then that's when Joel sort of breaks down a bit and he says, look, I'm now, like, he feels like he's too old to do this, basically, that he's too beaten up to do it. He's worried he's going to get her killed. He's frozen now. He's frozen twice, like when it comes to her. He's having his heart palpitations or panic attacks. And he mentions that he's deaf. And it kind of struck a chord because, obviously, in the game, part of the abilities you have when you play Joel, he's got his like super hearing where he can hear clickers. He's almost got like a bat-like sense. And I remember thinking like, but hang on a minute, what? It's kind of the complete opposite. Him being deaf now is kind of against that, because that was the major part of the game. Like part of the game is what we do is you I can't remember buttons. You push a certain button, and Joel then crouches down, and it all goes sort of black and white, so you can see the outline of the clickers even when they're behind the wall, because you could sort of hear roughly where they are. And I remember thinking, like, when they said about him being deaf, it's like, that's kind of like the opposite of the game. But anyway, so him being deaf, he's slowed down. That's why he felt like that guy could jump him early on when Ellie had to kill him and kill the guy, or shoot the guy for him. So, yeah, that was very interesting for me. Like, but the way he broke down in front of his brother, and then Tommy's then like, I'll tell you what, I'll take her. Like, I'll get her where she needs to get, and I'll get back. And Joel's like, okay. So then he goes back home to where Ellie is, and Ellie's overheard this conversation, and she instantly starts having a go at Joel, like, you're just going to dump me like everyone else, sort of thing. And Joel responds in a kind of, and they had, this is where he kind of, what he says is nasty, but it echoes back saying she said, he's like, you're not my daughter. Well, actually, no, let's go back a bit. First, Ellie says to him, I'm not your daughter, like, and she goes back to Sarah, and he's like, do not, because he doesn't want to go down there. He doesn't want to be mentioned. It hurts him to think about his daughter, obviously. And if someone's going to talk to him about it, it's going to hurt him even more. So he's like, don't. And then he says, like, you're right, you're not my daughter. And tomorrow we're going to go our separate ways. Because he's not going to take her to this place anymore. It's just going to be Tommy going. Because Joel doesn't feel like he can. And Joel's going to bugger off and go live his life somewhere else. Because he's kind of broken now. And she sort of lays into him a bit, has a go at him. Then Joel goes off into his room. And he has sort of a moment where he thinks about his daughter again. And then we get the next day, and Tommy's walking towards the barn, and Joel's already in there getting a horse ready. And Eddie's like, oh, so you've come just to like, whatever, like, you're off then. Come and say goodbye, have you? And he's like, well, I want to give you a choice. You can come with me or you can come with Tommy. And she doesn't hesitate. She throws the bags to Joel. She's like, come on, like that. And it was so lovely that she just like, it's like everything was forgiven in that second. The second Joel had said, like, your choice, like, I'm not gonna, you'll be safer with him. But she instantly threw the bag at him. She didn't even think about it. She wants to stay with Joel, and it's a very heartwarming moment in episode. And I think it helped Joel, so it gave him a bit more confidence in himself, because he's proper lacking at the minute. So then they sort of leave, say goodbye to Tommy. Tommy gives them he's given them everything. He's given them like the new clothes, gives them a gun, gives them the horse, gives them like everything they want, like from provisions to go where they're going, and off they go. Right. Right, so then we get a few, again, this show does really nice heartwarming moments where they make you chuckle and they make you feel good inside. Because a lot of the time in this show you want to cry, because they do some really emotional stuff in this show, but they also do the good heartwarming stuff. So they're doing a bit where Ellie and Joel's teaching Ellie how to shoot with a rifle, and she's shooting, she's like, the aim's wrong, so she misses the target a couple of times. She's like, the aim's wrong, this is wrong, this doesn't work properly. And then Joel gets the gun, he aims and just shoots, and she's got the binoculars. She just goes, you dick. because he shoots it straight in the middle of the shot. They wrote arsehole and she shoots it straight through the H of the arsehole. And I thought that was funny. It's like a little beanbag thing they put on there, but they wrote arsehole on it straight through the H. It was hilarious. And he just sort of gives that little Joel smile. So then they go a little bit more, and Eddie's asking him sort of like, what did you do before this happened? And he's like, oh, well, I was a contractor. And she's like, the contractors. As if it's like some sort of like tag team in wrestling or something, or the contractors. Like that. And he explains, I used to build houses. So they're on their way to Colorado. That's where we know the Fireflies are. That's where Tommy said the Fireflies are. And when they sort of get into like it's like a giant university. I don't really know much about America and where things are, but Colorado, I know it's like famous for its university. So he gets this big university, and they see monkeys running around, and he's like, it must be from the labs. Now I swear in the game there's a giraffe, but I might be wrong because I've played that game for years. But I think there's a giraffe at this point. But yeah, they said the monkeys have escaped from the labs and that's where they're breeding, obviously still living. They see some signs for the Fireflies. They sort of head down that way, and Joel mentions that he kind of wants to be a singer one day. That was quite funny because she's like, "Well, sing then." He's like, "No." So that kind of ends that. But yeah, they sort of get to this bit where they find like doctors' equipment and lab stuff in this building. They're all looking for it, trying to find stuff, and they find a list of packing stuff. And Joel says that's a list you make when you want to get out. So, and it doesn't look like someone's left there in a rush because a lot of stuff's still hanging around. And then they find a map that kind of pinpoints roughly where they think they've got it. Somewhere near Salt Lake City, I think it's called St. Mary's. That seems where all the dots again. So all the Fireflies seem to be converting to one place in Salt Lake City called St. Mary's. So obviously that's the next location we're going to be going to. So as they're up in sort of top floor of this like hospital / college university place, they hear a noise outside, and Joel looks down. There's like 4 guys walking on with like tall like baseball bats. So Joel's like, quick, out the back. So run down the stairs, go to the door, run to where they've got their horse tethered up outside. And Joel's trying to do it as quickly as possible. Suddenly Eddie shouts, Joel. He turns around, the guy with the baseball bat comes swinging. Joel ducks, he smacks the baseball bat on the tree, which breaks the bat. Then Joel sort of grabs him, starts giving a fight, gets him in like a chokehold and breaks the guy's neck. Drops him down. Also, if you wonder that's not blood, that's just, I make lipstick, and that's part of the lipstick that I make. So it's a big bulky lipstick thing. It's not like blood. I suddenly looked at that and thought, that looks like I've been bleeding or something. But no, it's nothing like that. It's just literally just lipstick that stains my hand. Yeah, so Joel's fights this guy, breaks his neck, and then Eddie looks down, and the baseball bat part that broke is now sticking out of Joel's side. It's literally impaled into him. Joel then just grabs it, like looks a bit shocked, just rips it straight out because Joel's a badass. I'd left it in myself and started crying, but Joel just like, Rrr. He's like, quick, get on the horse, get on the horse. They get on the horse. She shouts Joel because more bags are coming. They get on the horse quick, and they just shoot off as fast as they can on this horse. They get away. We then see obviously a little bit of time's passed. They're riding along past the train track, and Joel just collapses off the horse and just lays there, sort of looking up, and looks like he's about to die. And she's just like, no, Joel, I can't do this without you. I can't do this without you. And then fade to black, credits roll. And this show does a thing where it's like a lot of TV shows do. I know a lot of them do it, but this one seems to do it where you're like, no, I've got to wait a week for the next one. And that's what this show does to me every single week, where I'm just like, I finish it, I'm like, no, I've got to wait a week. But that's the way it used to be when I was a kid, you know. Like nowadays you've got binge watch stuff, which is all right for some things, but shows like this where it takes place over a long time, I think you get to feel it's more of a lengthy process. Where if you binge watch something, it's going to feel a lot more compact. I like the show does it once a week, but I still hate the fact I have to wait a week for it. But I can't fault this show at all. I'm loving every episode so far. Every episode's been good. I mean, that one where they sort of with Bill and Frank a bit more was a bit slow paced, a bit nothingy. But I didn't have a problem. A lot of people had a problem with it. I did a video on that, episode 3, I think it was. And a lot of people, when I posted that on Facebook, had issue with elements of that. But it's not the issues I had at all with it. It's just I just thought it was a bit slow, and it didn't have to be that intense into their life. Maybe if they wanted to do like a Last of Us, other people's stories, that would have been good there. But anyway, so yeah, it's a great show. So what if we're going on the game, the next episode, so we're on now, episode 6 on it, so it must be there's 3 more. It's going to be non-stop crazy stuff coming. It's like things are going to happen now, and it's going to get brutal. It's going to be shocking. There's a part I don't even know. I kind of want to do it like the game, but at the same time, it's going to be hard to watch because it's real people. It's not computer generated people. It's not animation things anymore. These are going to be real people. And some of the stuff, if it happens like it does in the game, it's going to be hard to watch. Really hard to watch. And I think it's possibly the next episode of the one after. Although I have heard the next episode is the flashback episode where you see what happened with Ellie and how she got bit. Because I've seen little clips, and it was like, I think it was a DLC on the game. Like, it wasn't part of the actual game, like downloadable content. I think DLC stands for, possibly. But it was like an extra bit you could pay for in the game, like an extra story. So I think that's what we've got to come in the next episode, and then we've got what must be the dodgy episode that's going to be really hard to watch, and then we've got the finale, the big hoo-ha at the end. So it's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be a good one. So it's going to be very action-packed next 3 episodes, because this one was very slow-paced. There wasn't much action. At the very end with a big fight with Joel. Yeah, but not much after that. So these next 3 are going to be like non-stop action from start to finish. So it's going to be pretty hair-raising stuff. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked this little review. I didn't fall asleep, so I'm shocked because I said I'm shattered. I'm gonna pass out to finish this one, finish my cup of tea and pass out. But yeah, definitely loving this show, and I'll see you soon. I might have a review because tomorrow night I'm gonna go watch Cocaine Bear, just because that film just looks mental. It's kind of snakes on the plane thing. It looks absolutely mental. So I might have a review up tomorrow night, maybe the day after, of Cocaine Bear, but you have to bear with me on that one. And I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy yourselves and have a good rest of the night. See you for either Cocaine Bear or the next Last of Us. Bye.